China may seem like the unstoppable superpower of the world, but there is one country that is not afraid to challenge it: India. India is using a brilliant and bold military strategy to trap China and counter its ambitions. Want to know how? Watch this video to find out. India and China are two of the biggest countries in the world, with more people and money than you can shake a stick at. To be more precise, they have a combined population of over 2.7 billion people and a combined GDP of over $14 trillion. But despite their size and strength, they're not exactly BFFs. In fact, they have a long history of beef and battles, going back to the 1962 Sino-Indian War, which ended with India getting defeated and losing a chunk of land in the Himalayas. Since then, India and China have had many more scuffles and showdowns, most recently in 2020, when a nasty brawl in the Galwan Valley left 20 Indian soldiers, and who knows how many Chinese soldiers dead. Now, you may think that the border dispute is the only thing that keeps India and China up at night, but you'd be wrong. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes than just a bunch of rocks and dirt. India and China have very different visions and interests for the region and the world, and they're not afraid to clash over them. China, as you probably know, is working on a massive and controversial project called the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI for short. The BRI is basically China's way of saying, hey, we're the boss now. We're going to build roads, railways, ports, pipelines, and other stuff all over the place, and you're going to like it. The BRI is seen by many as China's attempt to take over the world trade and politics, and to challenge the US-led world order. But the South Asian giant is not too happy about China's plans and actions. India sees the BRI as a threat to its freedom and security. India is especially worried about China's involvement in its neighboring countries, such as Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Nepal, where China has spent billions of dollars and built strategic assets such as ports, airports, and military bases. India fears that China is surrounding it and creating a string of pearls around it to limit its influence and access in the Indian Ocean and beyond. But how is India dealing with China's challenge? Well, India is not just sitting on the couch and watching Netflix while China is busy conquering the world. India is actually taking some bold and clever actions to stop China's plans and to claim its own stake and interests in the region and the world. India is doing this by using a mix of diplomatic, economic, and military strategies. So what's India's military game plan when it comes to handling China? Well, it's like a strategic chess match on the world stage. It's all about strengthening those border defenses and putting up barriers to keep China on its toes. How do they do it? By strategically positioning troops and gear in all the right places along the Himalayas and Ladakh. But that's not all. India is also upgrading its infrastructure, constructing everything from roads to airstrips to ensure they can move fast and easy in those important border zones. And let's talk about firepower. India is not holding back. Tanks, artillery, missiles, and fighter jets are all part of the mix, ensuring they've got the muscle to maintain control. Oh, and did I mention the Mountain Strike Corps? That's like their secret weapon, trained and prepared to handle any high-altitude clashes with China. But India's chess game didn't end there. They had another trick in their bag that made China look like a fool. Want to hear more? Here it goes. India's strategy took a clever turn after the conflict at Galwan. Instead of focusing on reporting Chinese debts, they focused on their own losses, making their people unite. This unity led a quick ban on Chinese goods in India, hitting China where it hurt the most, in the wallet. India's win in getting a temporary seat at the UN Security Council, along with their loud voice on the Hong Kong issue, made their position stronger on the world stage. On the flip side, China's handling of the situation lacked transparency, hiding their debts and relying on unrealistic claims of superiority. China armed forces' lack of real combat experience, along with internal worries of disagreement within the ranks, paled in comparison to India's skilled mountain warfare knowledge and strong love for their country. As the situation heated up, India's strategic move to ban Chinese investment became the final nail in the coffin. It caused a snowball effect, with the US and other countries supporting India. Even Russia, who was hesitant, fell for India's diplomatic charm, providing military help. This left China isolated, with only Pakistan and Nepal in its corner. While China got ready for a big fight on three sides, the US and Japan joined forces on the east side, making China worry about its money and power. Smaller countries like Vietnam and Myanmar also joined the fight, saying they were on India's side. China also had a trade route crisis. The Malacca Strait was like a bottleneck for China's links with Africa and the Middle East. But Australia, Japan, US, and India teamed up and showed off their ships there, sending a clear message to China. Don't even think about it. So India was clearly in a better position with its allies. France, the US, and Israel decided to join India's party, bringing along some guns and tanks as gifts. Meanwhile, more and more countries were cheering for Hong Kong's freedom, adding extra layers to China's headache. Even the Tibet issue started to become an international matter. It was like watching a poker game, and India was holding all the aces. At one point, China had a whole army camped out at the border between India and China that keeps changing like a chameleon, making the two countries fight over who owns what. China was armed to the teeth with strong weapons, like the S-400 anti-aircraft missile system. They even brought in martial artists to teach hand-to-hand combat. But why did they need all that if India was so weak? Well, turns out China was actually rattled. When they viciously attacked unarmed Indian soldiers on June 15th, they didn't expect such heavy losses on their own side. The Chinese foreign minister tried to spin it, claiming Indian troops crossed the line. But we know the truth. India was just defending its territory and taking the revenge of the earlier deaths where Gata commandos were involved in a killing spree. Some sources claim that China had more losses than India, and as they felt the heat, they rushed to Nepal and Pakistan for help. India, in the meantime, strengthened its ties and got some backup from its allies. Now here's the question for you. Have you ever wondered why India sent a MiG-21 to tackle an F-16? It was like bringing a slingshot to a gunfight, a bold move to throw Pakistan off their game. When Pakistan witnessed their F-16 go down to a MiG-21, they panicked immediately. Imran Khan even started talking about nuclear war, and if pressing the big red button was the answer to everything. But India's move had a bigger impact than just rattling Pakistan. It also sent a message to China, which was facing its own problems. China is losing billions in India, and their banks are starting to panic over bad loans. Adding fuel to the fire, they've got Uncle Sam breathing down their neck in a high-stakes trade war. It's like watching an intense financial drama happen right in front of us. And now imagine if India hits them where it hurts the most, Chinese mobile operations. That's like pulling the rug out from under their feet, with almost 600 Chinese banks on the edge of collapse and people back home facing withdrawal limits. It's safe to say China's feeling the pressure. But wait, there's good news. India's trade deficit with China is shrinking faster than an ice melting on a hot day. With efforts to support local businesses and reduce imports from China, it's hitting the dragon where it hurts. And guess who's making the big moves in this economic chess match? None other than India's Minister of External Affairs, Mr. S. Jaishankar. While PM Narendra Modi may be getting all the praise, it's Jaishankar who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, making sure India stays ahead in every move. Now all the dust settles, and China calls for a truce. One thing's clear, India's got the upper hand, and they're not afraid to play tough to protect their interests. India's military strategy is not only about protecting its own interests, it's also a major force in the complex game of global affairs. Think about this. Every move India makes echoes across the world stage, affecting trade routes, diplomatic ties, and regional peace. From protecting the sea lanes that deliver your Amazon orders to stop the bad guys who want to spoil your day, India's strategy shapes the security of whole regions. But it's not just about geopolitics. It's also about the daily lives of people around the world. Whether it's making sure ships carrying needed goods can pass safely or preventing attacks from hostile actors, India's military strategy has a big impact on global security and well-being. So what's your take on India's strategic moves? Are they planning for a big clash with their rivals or just playing nice one step at a time? Let us know in the comments section. For more information about such hot topics, check out our next video and don't forget to subscribe.